Morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
You bet. Good morning, Charlie.
Awesome. Reese, how are you doing?
I'm good, and I think it's supposed to be 70 today, so looking forward to that.
It's like 70 today, but 40 on Friday, so. But then 60 on Sunday, so. It's fall, or not fall, it's spring. Wow, where's my brain? Anyways, I don't know if Brenda's going to jump on or not, but I think in the interest of time, I've got about a half an hour. Just want to jump in right to it and kind of go over some stuff. And Reese, I'll lean on you just to kind of help out here and go over what was talked about yesterday at our construction meeting. So I think as everybody is aware, we've got the streets closed this week. They're in the process right now. I can hear them outside my window, continuing with pavement removals. My guess is Salem will be completely removed probably within the next couple hours, as I know they're down on the intersection right now of Salem and Howard. With that, they do plan on starting water main work tomorrow. We did clarify any disruptions for businesses or anything with the water main work will not occur. Likely will not occur even next week. It'll probably be the week after that. But just so everybody that is affected in this phase is aware, our contractor is required to give a week's heads up on any water disruptions that take place. And Reese, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the last phase, none of this disruptions lasted more than an hour, if I remember right, correct? And Reese, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Sorry about that. Yep, that's pretty much the deal. We'll also be kind of handing out some 48-hour notices too, before anything happens to any of the utilities, I guess that would affect business.
And this is only for people located on Salem that will be affected by it. I think IME Waters talked to a few of them on the south side of the street that it's my understanding they won't be affected, but they are getting some water services put into their building at the request of IMU. So shouldn't be any disruptions on there. And I think what disruptions there will be are mainly right there on the north side of Salem towards Howard. There's a few buildings that are connected to that water main, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But anyways, those are coming. Those will not happen this week. They will not happen next week, but likely the week after you can expect some of that to start up. Again, water main work, storm sewer work is going to start tomorrow and continue through next week. They'll lay the mains in the ground. get those in there. We did clarify, I know we have some temperatures that are getting close to freezing, but they're good enough where there's not a worry of any water freezing or anything like that going to be happening. So we should be okay there. The intersection of Salem and First Street, there is a tap for the water main that needs to be done in that intersection. That's the one that is right outside of City Hall here on our south parking lot. It's not going to close that intersection, but it is going to bump that intersection down to a 1-lane crossing. That will be while that water main tap is being done. They will, when they're done with that, and I think that's going to take place this week, they will get that intersection back open. They'll put rock on it probably over the weekend, so we at least can get two-way traffic through there. And then at that point, they will get that poured back and open back up as soon as possible. The other thing we did clarify with the contractor is that crosswalk there. So that would be just to the west of that intersection. Right now, the crosswalk is closed. If anybody's been paying attention, the Krause's crowd is using that parking lot still there on the north side, and they are kind of crossing essentially in the middle of the street right now. So there is a priority on the contractor to at least get that crosswalk opened back up once the utilities are underneath there when they're pouring that back. So it sounds like that crosswalk should be back within probably the next 3 weeks or so, but it will be a priority before the rest of the road is open. So we'll create a little bit safer of a crossing environment there, because we know people and habits are still they're gonna take the shortest route possible and not do the full crossing across that intersection. So, and then the only other thing I think we have to update as of now is their focus right now is on Salem. Once they get all the pavement removals and utility work started there, they're going to then switch over to Howard and start doing the same. But as they kind of get their crews in here and their subcontractors in, right now, again, they're focusing on Salem. They're going to do that. They'll move over to Howard here in the next couple of weeks, start doing all of that work. So essentially they can have the removal crew on Salem, then they can start the utility crew there, kind of move the removal crew over to Howard, and everybody's kind of chasing everybody at that point. With that, it is fully anticipated that Salem Avenue and the intersection of Salem and Howard would be opened back up first. We're probably looking at, closer to maybe the end of May, early June to where that happens, but that would be open first. And then they'll finish up Howard and then open up that section when they're done. And then lastly, as we've mentioned, any future phases from here, that's going to be something that we kind of observe as we move through these phases here and make a decision on that. The hope and the anticipation is that we get all these street phases done still this year. But if there are any delays due to weather or any other unforeseen things, we may have to adjust at that point. So with that, not much to update. I think with this week, when we get moving through this, there's going to be a lot more to update. But Brenda, I see you're on. Reese, if there's anything I missed, please add to that. Otherwise, we can take any questions that anybody has.
I think you pretty much covered it. One thing I would add is that temporary street lights will be going down and permanent ones will be going in on
Oh, yes.
phase 1 stuff. So the galvanized ones are temporary, and the larger black ones are the permanent ones.
That was note number 1 on my list, and I skipped right over it. But yeah, so the block of Salem, so this is kind of in the phase 1 area. That block of Salem is going to be done today. They'll remove the old one, well, the galvanized ones, and they'll put the permanent ones in. That I believe includes the courthouse side as well. And then Buxton will be tomorrow that they'll do that.
Yep, that's the goal, and it's all kind of depending on if somebody's parked in the way or something. They'll just be patient.
Wasn't able to get up there, but IMU had intended to close off those parking spots around those poles this morning, just so they could have some area to work. They anticipate that the work will last into the afternoon, but as they move one street light to the next and they're done, they'll open those parking spaces back up.
Yeah, this is Brenda. That was all that I had on my notes as well. And I will be sending out, like we've always done, in an email, all of the stuff that you just mentioned. So the people that couldn't attend this morning will have the information as well.
Does anybody have any questions?
Charlie, I have a couple of questions for Reese. Reese, when are the alleyways? When's the projected start on those?
Yep. We're thinking 2023 then.
Okay.
That's what we sit
And
now.
my understanding is there's a change order to IMU on that. Is that correct?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Still
Not set in
talking about
stone
that.
yet.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
what?
We're still talking through that.
Okay. Reese, is there going to be any elevation change on the street between First and Howard?
You're saying, is there any changes happening to the plans?
In the final street pavement, is there going to be any elevation change on that street?
As of now, they'll be building it to plans, but we're.
I know, but I understand, but what do the plans call for?
Would you like specifics, I guess?
Well, I want to make sure that we don't have any sidewalks and issues like we had on Salem, between Salem and Howard.
You're talking about the fill strips?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's something, and I can give everybody an update on that really quick, and Reese knows this as well too, but Bolton and Mink is currently looking at some alternatives on that. I'd have to, if you give me 1 second here. Let me just grab these plans. I know we've looked at this phase, and I don't think, as the plans call right now, any of them are to the same
extent
grade as they
is-
currently are, but I'm just verifying that.
The plan right now is to adjust accordingly if something like that comes up to, adjust the street or adjust
mean
the
adjust-
sidewalk.
You mean bring in fill to bring it back up to where it was? Is that what you're saying?
It'd be more just building the curb a little bit taller if it were to get.
But why
built
would
like
there
that.
be a need to change the elevation of the street?
Stormwater.
There wouldn't be, I guess, or you mean in the grand
Yeah,
scheme of
and
things?
I mean, there's a lot of things that factor into that. And on this particular phase, well, first of all, Howard might have some things because we've got to match grade with the county's project and where their elevations are set. That was one thing that we had to look at on that. And then building elevations, obviously other things. So Steve, if you want at some point, we can come in and kind of take a look at some of these, and I can show you where they're at, but we show kind of the percent slopes of all of these fill strips. There's some areas right now that show kind of around, I think most of it is 1 to 5%, which is pretty minimal in this phase. There's one area where there's an intake where it's a little bit more kind of towards the north end, but again, we can show these, but again, that's what the plans call right now. We're working with Bolton and Mink to look through some alternatives on that, on what we do, because again, I'm not an engineer. Reese, this is where you're much better than me, but the street grades are set based off how stormwater needs to flow, based off current stormwater standards as of today. That also plays into where the elevations are on both the building sides, on both the county side and the existing businesses side. Play all of that in, and then we've got to get sidewalks in and all of that. So there's a lot of things that play in it. The other thing to remember on those slopes is that the current or the previous sidewalks, and for the most part, were not really ADA up to ADA standards because of cross slope. Cross slope is, if you go from the buildings out to the curb,
Right.
what that slope of the sidewalk is. For the most part, those slopes were too steep on the old sidewalks, and they're now being built to ADA standards, which kind of flattens them out a little bit, so that adjusts
Right.
that grade as well there. So there's a few things that play into that, but again, just so everybody knows, Bolton and Mink, based off some of the direction we've gotten from council, is looking at some alternatives on that. We'll bring those forward. I would assume Chad said that we're looking at having those probably in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to? I see them in the chat.
Yeah, I've done road construction and stuff, so I know that there are certain things that can adjust a end project. But what doesn't make any sense to me is if you're putting in larger storm sewers, then why is the street going down versus going up?
Because for the most part, the streets weren't at proper grades before. There's a current day standards will say that a road has to be crowned a certain percentage of slope. And previously, in a lot of areas, that was not anywhere close to being up to code.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. Nobody has given me that answer when I came up, so I had to try to figure out how to word it so that way I get the correct answer.
Yep. No,
that's more what I was looking for, is to figure out why the streets, and I used to keep up on all the ADA standards and what they currently are, but they change so frequently that sometimes it's hard to keep up with that. It's the same way as it is with city codes. City codes change, and half the people in the city don't know that the codes have changed, let alone the standard people. I mean, communication for everybody is going to be key.
Yep. Nope. I agree.
All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Let's see, it looks like we have one person on the phone. It's always nice to ask I think sometimes it's hard for people on the phone to get in on Zoom calls. So I'm going to take a pause. If that person, whoever's on the phone that has a question, now would be a great time.
Hi, it's Kathy, and no, I don't really have any questions, but thanks for asking.
Hopefully you haven't been too annoyed, Kathy.
I wasn't there yesterday, and I haven't gotten there yet this morning, so I'm hoping that you guys get it done quick.
I think the removals are always going to be probably one of, other than the disruptions, from a noise and annoyance standpoint, the removals are always going to be the most annoying thing. There's a lot of ground shaking that happens. This concrete is 8 to 9 inches thick in a lot of areas, and it's not necessarily easy to get out. But so I know with the breaking of the street on Monday and a little bit yesterday, I mean, again, if everybody knows where City Hall is, I'm sitting in my office and somewhat annoyed by it. So, and I can hear the banging out there right now, but that should all kind of wrap up here on Salem yet this morning. So that's good.
I'm looking forward to it being done.
There, it's just a lot of beeping of trucks.
The only other thing that I have is for Reese. I've talked to the other businesses on my stretch of Howard, and we're all pretty much in agreement to get the sidewalk done as soon as possible, because there's only a couple of businesses that have plausible access to the rear for their customers.
Yep.
So we're all pretty much at your mercy. So getting it done in one fell swoop, or as big a swoops as you can get, everybody on my end of the square is in agreement to that. Because we're all going to have to close our doors for that time that you're doing that. So having it done as quickly as possible is going to be the greatest thing that you could do for us.
Sounds good. I will talk to the contractor, and we'll be talking to you when we get closer to that.
Okay, thank you.
And I know if the contractor has said so many times, if they can do a full run of sidewalk, it's to their benefit as well too. We did a pretty big run on Salem last year, about 3/4 of the block we were able to do, and that was something where they closed it down Monday morning, tore out, poured it back, and it was back open by Thursday morning. So if we can do that on this block, it's going to save a lot of time, and we do appreciate that.
Yeah, every business I've talked to, the only two plausible businesses on the square or on that block of road that have alley access is Pete's Pizza and the bank. Everybody else is, even though we do have a rear entrance, that's our storage area.
Yep.
And it's not safe for people to come through. It's not possible for people to come through that. So for us, hopefully I'm not overstepping for the other people that I talked to yesterday, but so far we're all in agreement to get it done in as big of an area and as fast as you can get it done, because that'd be the least disruptive to our business. And we could get our businesses back up and running the way that they're supposed to be ran.
Nope, appreciate that. And that is something probably within the next month that we are going to be having more one-on-ones with all the businesses to kind of go over that plan. We also have to pay attention to upper story apartments where those are at too, because, and I think, especially where you're at, I think most of those go from the rear anyways, but there's just a lot of things that we factor in. It was funny last year in phase one, Reese actually put together a pretty nifty spreadsheet that kind of showed each address and, if they had a secondary access, if they didn't, and all of that stuff. And we were able to kind of put a puzzle together on how we did it. It was messy, but, we got through it obviously, but yep. So we'll, again, all that aside, we'll be talking with all the businesses here probably, I would say, Reese, because we talked about sidewalk construction starting probably in a month, right? I mean, there's some things that I know we're going to get done sooner than later because we can in this phase. But yeah, we'll start kind of talking through that and getting a schedule moving forward ASAP.
Yep. As long as the temperatures stay reasonable and get the rest of the frost out of the ground, they could be picking off some sidewalks and a little bit of pavement in the next, or I would say the next few weeks. Not the next week by chance, but.
And it sounds like from what everybody said yesterday that there was not much frost in the ground at all, which is a good thing.
That's correct. Yep.
So.
Another thing that I have is I've got several people that are interested in, putting businesses back on the square, getting actual retail back on the square, making the square a popping place again. I've got half a dozen people that I know of that are looking into starting back, filling these empty slots with businesses that are going to stimulate local economy, and knowing that that's a goal that the city has as well. As soon as we can get this done, that's all that's holding these people back. So the business owners these owners that are trying to lease their properties that are sitting vacant, that's the biggest holdup is this construction process. So honestly, the sooner it can get done and safely, the best.
Yep. We're all on the same page there.
Yep. Understood.
Anyone else? All right, well, we'll be back here again next Wednesday to give an update on what's transpired over the last week and what's going to transpire on the week ahead. Hopefully everybody is enjoying this nice weather and it's here to stay. And if there are any questions in the interim, please feel free to reach out to me. I believe both Reese and Brian Dozer with Absolute Concrete. I know there was some pamphlets that were handed out. Their contact information is on there. They're also good people to contact, and we'll answer any questions. And, at the very least, if you see anybody out walking around and you have a question, just grab them and ask, and we'll get the answers for you. So with that, hope everybody has a good rest of the week, and we'll see everybody next week.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Charlie.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
Thanks.